Hello everyone, my name is Supriya and I'm from BBA SEM 2 Section B. And the topic for my presentation is cost and its elements. Meaning of cost. Cost means the amount of expenditure incurred on a particular thing. It is the monetary value that has been spent by a company in order to produce something. It expresses the amount of money that is spent on the production or creation of a good or service. Cost does not include a markup for profit. What is cost accounting? Cost accounting is basically concerned with recording, classifying, and summarizing costs for determination of cost of product or services, planning, controlling, and reducing such costs, and furnishing information to management for decision making. The elements of cost are material, labor, expenses, and overheads. Material. The material cost is the cost of commodity supplied to an undertaking. It is of two types, direct material cost and indirect material cost. Direct material cost. It is the cost of materials entering into and becoming constituent elements of a product or saleable service. Thus, materials which can be identified with units of outputs or services are known as direct materials. Cotton used in the production of cloth, leather used in the case of production of leather goods, and lime in the production of chalk, etc. are the examples of direct material. Any material purchased and used for a specific job are also called direct material. Indirect material. Materials used for the product other than the direct materials are called indirect materials. In other words, we can say materials cost which cannot be identified with a specific product, job, process is also known as indirect material cost. Small tools, stationery used in work, office stationery, advertising posters, and material used in maintenance of plant and machinery are few examples of indirect material. Labor. Labor is the remuneration paid for physical or mental effort expended in production and distribution. It is of two types, direct labor cost and indirect labor cost. Direct labor cost. It is also called direct wages. Direct labor cost is the cost of labor directly engaged in production operations. Example, workmen engaged in assembling parts, carpenters engaged in furniture making, etc. Indirect labor cost. Indirect labor cost is the remuneration paid for labor engaged to the help production operations. Example, inspectors, watchmen, sweepers, storekeepers, etc. The remuneration paid to these persons cannot be tracked to a job, process, or production order. The labor cost of idle time, overtime, holidays, etc. are also taken as direct indirect cost. Similarly, clerical and managerial staff, salesmen, distribution employees are also included in the orbit of indirect labor. Expenses. Expenditure other than material and labor is the third element of cost. It is defined by ICMA as the cost of service provided to an undertaking and the notional cost of the use of owned assets. It is also of two types, direct expenses and indirect expenses. Direct expenses. These are the expenses which can be directly identified with the unit of output, job, process, or operation. They are specifically incurred for a job or a unit process, and in no way they are connected with other jobs or processes. The direct expenses are also known as chargeable expenses. Indirect expenses. Indirect expenses are expenses other than the indirect material and indirect labor, which cannot be directly identified with units of output, job, process, or operation. These expenses are incurred commonly for jobs and processes, example, rent, power lighting, depreciation, bank charges, advertising, and etc. Overheads. This is the last topic. On the basis of function, overheads classified as factory overhead, administration or office overheads, and the selling and distribution overhead. Factory overhead. This is the aggregate of indirect material, indirect wages, and indirect expenses incurred in the factory. Example of indirect factory expenses are rent, power, depreciation, lighting, and heating incurred in the factory. Administration of office overhead. All the indirect administration expenses come under this category. Salaries of office staff, accountants, direct fees, rent of office building, stationery expenses incurred in the office lighting, and bank charges, etc. are the examples. Selling and distribution overhead. This includes Indirect selling and distribution expenses. Examples are salary of salesmen, selling commission, advertising, warehouse rent, maintenance of delivery vans, warehouse staff expenses, warehouse lighting, etc. Thank you.